San Francisco with a quarter of the in the books, the Giants are 20-21 and still within striking distance in the National League West. It's not the position the franchise hoped to be in following a 98 loss, but considering the massive toll injuries to key contributors have taken on the roster, the Giants can take comfort in the resilience they've shown thus far. With Madison Bumgarner, Johnny Cueto, Mark Melancon and Joe Panik all sidelined with serious injuries, the club does stand to add several important pieces before the month of July, which could prove significant as the Giants will spend most of that month at At Park. The dateline on this article might be a bit misleading as I answered your questions for my Giants mailbag from 36,000 feet in the air on my flight home from Pittsburgh, but it wasn't published until I was back inside the city limits of San Francisco. Advertisement. Thanks to everyone who participated, and feel free to send more questions to @Kerr_Crowley on Twitter. From @Jeff Hennig, Kerry, what a strange 10-game trip. Anyway, having witnessed the 10 games, right now what do you consider the biggest concern? Is it the lack of consistent hitting, or the fact that the starting pitching overall did not do well, or the defense being shoddy, or something else? The Giants have 4 different 3-city road trips before the All-Star break, but it's hard to envision either of the final 2 featuring as many twists and turns as the 10-game trip they just finished. Defeating the Braves in 3 straight games was quite the opening salvo, but losing 6 straight games in Pennsylvania proved how difficult it is to compete on a daily basis when a team has as many roster deficiencies as the Giants. All things considered, a 4-6 trip isn't a death knell for San Francisco, especially considering no National League West team played good baseball this week. With that being said, the biggest concern for the Giants has to be their starting pitching depth. Regardless of whether Madison Bumgarner and Johnny Cueto rejoin the rotation before July and meet expectations, the lack of organizational pitching depth is alarming. The Giants don't have an active stopper in the rotation, and they don't have up-and-coming prospects who project as front-end of the rotation arms. The Giants' rotation was exposed in Philadelphia, and upcoming series in Chicago and Denver will be gigantic challenges. While too many strikeouts and lackadaisical defense also contributed to the 6-game losing streak, Bruce Bochy made it clear that these types of ruts are more likely to occur when starting pitchers are underperforming. From @11,012,010 finally, will the meager returns from the big money paid to pitchers like Samardzija, Cain, Zito, Cueto, etc. scare the Giants away from signing Bum long term? The Giants don't view Madison Bumgarner in the same light as they once perceived Jeff Samardzija and Barry Zito, or even Matt Cain and Johnny Cueto. In my opinion, the Giants look at Bumgarner the way they once looked at Tim Lincecum, a superhuman who can't be compared to many other pitchers because there just aren't comparable talents floating around the game of baseball. With that being said, I think the Giants will still be influenced by the poor returns from recent contracts like the ones paid out to Cueto, Samardzija and Cain, and I am certain Bumgarner's injuries will impact his market value. I don't think there's the type of organizational pressure to ensure that Bumgarner will be a Giant for life, that there might have been immediately following the 2014 World Series. And the franchise's recent struggles certainly play a part in that. It wouldn't shock me to see the Giants seriously entertain trade discussions for Bumgarner this summer, but I think if they do deal him, they might be better off waiting until the winter after he'll have had 4 months to prove his value. A lot can change between now and the end of the 2019, but if Bumgarner returns to form and plays out the rest of his contract with his health intact, the Giants will absolutely consider resigning him and paying him upward of $20 to $25 million a year. From @ChrisFreeson_6, if every SF Giant starting pitcher was healthy, what's your rotation? Bumgarner and Cueto should be at the top of the rotation regardless of who you ask this question to, but after that, there is plenty of room for healthy discussion and debate. I know the Giants view Jeff Samardzija as their number 3 starter, but I think Chris Stratton will be more consistent over a 162-game schedule. When both pitchers are atop their game, I think Stratton has better stuff, so I'd lean on him as the 3rd starter with Samardzija as the 4th. It's tough to choose a 5th starter among Ty Blach, Derek Holland and Andrew Suarez because all 3 have different strengths and weaknesses despite all being left-handed. I am inclined to choose Suarez because I think he has the most upside, the best breaking pitch and the most consistent ability to throw strikes. I still like Holland's veteran experience and I think he's a good guy to have in a clubhouse. As for Blatch, I love his demeanor on the mound and his competitive nature, but I think he is best served as a long reliever who can pick up ground ball outs in tough middle-inning situations. From @OBS Giants Poll, how do the Giants view Suarez after this good start to MLB career? The Giants thought Suarez had enough potential to challenge for a spot in the rotation during spring training, and they were not surprised by what he has accomplished thus far. I don't think Suarez is the type of pitcher who will be prone to too many outings like the one we saw in Pittsburgh, where it was clear from the get-go that he didn't have his fastball command. A good sign for Suarez's future is that his teammates are impressed by his fastball command and slider, and they've also commented on how mature he appears on the mound. For a while, Suarez was considered a step behind fellow prospect Tyler Beede, but that has changed this year, and there's real optimism that Suarez has the necessary tools to develop into a middle-of-the-rotation starter. From John Hendricks, any traction trading Belt? Yes, here's this good, moving Posey extending his career and our best pick up a starting pitcher and a catcher? No. Brandon Belt has carried the Giants' offense at various points during the first 2 months of the and they didn't sign him with the expectation that he would grow into a trade chip. Belt is in the prime of his career, making $17 million for the next 4 years, and is one of the better all-around first basemen in the National League. Consider what Belt did on Sunday: 3 hits, including 2 doubles, all while playing out of position to give the club a better chance to win. Toward the end of their respective contracts, I think it's a fair conversation to have. The Giants will want Posey to stay with the organization from start to finish, and eventually, they'll need a spot for him in the field. But right now, Posey remains one of the best defensive catchers in baseball, and he and Belt complement each other well in the Giants' order. It's an idea worth revisiting in 2021, or perhaps as early as 2020, but it's not a move they'll consider in 2018. From @11,012,010 finally, how much longer will the Giants go with a 13-man pitching staff? I asked Bruce Bochy a version of this question on Sunday, and he sounded reluctant to part with a pitcher in favor of a position player due to the lack of depth in the rotation. I think it's possible we could see Hunter Pence in the outfield by this weekend, particularly because Pence would like to travel to Houston with the team next week, and he'll soon run out of time on his rehab assignment. Still, Pence must prove he can be a productive asset to the Giants lineup if he wants to earn a roster spot back, and there's no guarantees there. If Pence isn't in a position to help the team, I think they'll wait until Mac Williamson finishes his rehab assignment before evaluating whether to ditch the 13th pitcher. Williamson could play a few games in the minor leagues while the Giants are in Houston next week, and then rejoin the team when it travels to Chicago. But with series in hitter-friendly parks like Wrigley Field and Coors Field, the Giants might bring Williamson back to the roster and still find a way to keep an extra reliever. With their current roster makeup, the Giants can shuttle Austin Slater back and forth from AAA to the majors and expect him to thrive in a part-time role, and they don't have many other position players on the 40-man roster worth sending up and down. Reserve infielder Miguel Gomez is a possibility, but the Giants are better served having an extra reliever than a switch-hitting pinch hitter with limited defensive potential. A lot could change when Bumgarner returns, too, which could happen around June 1st. A starter the Giants can count on to pitch deep into games would ease the stress on their bullpen. From @Flunatic Fringe, about the MLB draft, anything you are hearing about who the SF Giants are interested in, or any predictions of your own? The MLB draft is entirely unpredictable, but I do know this: the Giants cannot afford to mess this pickup. Auburn starting pitcher Casey Mize is the consensus #1 choice, and after that, I've seen no fewer than a dozen different names floated around as potential #2 overall selections. Typically, teams drafting that high need to take the best player available, but if there really isn't much separation between a handful of names on the draft board, I think the Giants should and likely would take a pitcher. Florida's Brady Singer is a possibility, although he doesn't strike me as a can't-miss, high-upside prospect because his strikeout totals are low. They could always go with a high school arm and hope that player rises through the system quickly, but ultimately, the Giants need an impact player who has a realistic chance of becoming an all-star. The picks in rounds 2 and 3 are just as important this year, because the Giants' farm system is so thin.